All right, you guys, welcome back into another One Piece discussion breakdown chapter video. Today, we are here to talk about chapter 1107, I've Been Always Looking For You. Last time we made one of these videos, I promised that the video would only be 20 minutes long. The video was an hour long. This time around, I'm gonna make good on my promises and keep it to a very short 30 minutes. That is the goal. I'm not joking. Whenever I make these videos, I do not time myself. I do not have a script. So sometimes we fire from all cylinders and it lasts a little bit longer than usual. But like I said, I'm aiming for a solid 25 to 30 here. So let's just get to it. First up, we have the cover page of the chapter, and sad to see it, but it is not a canon one. When I read the spoilers and I saw that it was supposed to be Law and Beppo, I got excited. I was like, yo, Law and Beppo getting their own cover page story would be phenomenal. I would love to see where Law and Beppo are currently, even Kid and Killer. I mean, hey, I want to see them float back up to the shoreline of Elbaf, you know? I feel like that could happen. Turns out that's not the case. We have another reader requested one where Law and Beppo are sleeping with the snow leopard. I honestly feel like there could be some hidden message here, like maybe that's where Law and Beppo went. And I feel like now more than ever, we should be paying attention to these wacky reader requested cover pages, because they do come back and we learn that they have been foreshadowing events for a very, very long time. A prime example, I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead to the very end of the chapter real quick, but we learn that Caribou wants to work for Blackbeard. And with that being the case, you may be wondering how that ties into a cover page. Well, a long time ago, we had a reader request with Caribou delivering a meat pie. And meat pies just so happened to be a reference to Luffy and Blackbeard, showing that, you know, he was with Luffy at one point and then he'll eventually go to Blackbeard's side. That is pretty much where the Caribou is working for Blackbeard theory spawned a very, very long time ago. So that just goes to show how important these reader requested cover pages can be at times. So I wouldn't be surprised if Law and Beppo do go to some snow island and meet a leopard looking person and they just so happen to cure Law. I feel like that could be the case here, but who knows, one thing I did find a little bit interesting about the cover page, last two things I'll touch on until we move on to the chapter, is that right next to Law is a bottle of vodka. I'm not exactly sure if there's a character in One Piece that is related to vodka. I do know there is a vodka kingdom, but now I'm just kind of curious, like maybe he's going to meet Dr. Kureha, you know, because she's a drinker, you know. Dr. Kureha was a drinker, and she does live in a snow island. I don't know why he would go all the way to Drum Island, but, you know, it's got me rubbing my chin a little bit. And then Beppo also has a tea kettle as well, and he's giving that to the snow leopard, which I'm not too sure if that's a good or bad idea, but hey, Beppo, you know, you do you, my man. So, on to the actual chapter now. We start off and we have an amazing double page spread of the giant pirates' arrival here on Egghead Island. And I'm not joking, they've actually arrived on Egghead Island. This is something the Marines took chapters and chapters to do, but no. Dory, Broggy, the Giants, they are strolling up on this island like it is nobody's business. So since the giant pirates have actually landed on the island, I wouldn't be super shocked if come next chapter we finally get a Usopp interaction with them or Luffy acknowledging that they're here, because I feel like that would be a pretty big moment. Like this chapter, Bonnie hits Luffy with the, hey, your son got Nika. And then Luffy's like, wait, Nika who? So I wouldn't be surprised if we get that exact same scene next week where the Giants look at Luffy and they call him Nika and then he's also confused again. I feel like people are just going to keep on driving that nail into Luffy until he finally gets it. And I feel like the Giants are next up to bat for that one. So yeah, the Giants are here and they are absolutely destroying the Marines. We get an update later on in the chapter where Vice Admiral says that the Giants have already destroyed 30 battleships. Of course, the smaller and medium-sized ones, but still, 30 battleships, right? They just arrived. They've been here for half a chapter, and the Giants are already running amok. Another thing to keep in mind is that it is not just Dory and Broggy who are present on Egghead. We also have Oimo, we have Kashi, and we have a bunch of other Giants in the back as well. And you guys know me. I do not hype up the Giants where it's not necessary. You know, I'm a giant hater through and through, but I'm gonna say it right here. the guys who are behind Dory and Bragi are probably very experienced fighters, because we gotta remember that the giant warrior pirates were around for hundreds of years. Like, these guys have some experience under their belt. So yeah, they're not exactly bringing bozos to this island. So yeah, I truly do believe that the Marines are thoroughly cooked at this point, right? You know, if it was just Dory and Bragi, I'd be like, okay, Dory and Bragi versus the Vice Admirals. Oh, who's gonna win? I'm not too sure. But if you add in their entire crew into the situation, yeah, I think the giant pirates are gonna absolutely stomp here. One thing that I totally forgot about, but I thought was really cool, was the reintroduction of Dory and Bragi, because I forgot they had epithets. You know, we have Bragi, the red ogre, and then we have Dory, the blue ogre. And, you know, like I said, I don't hype up giants where it's not needed, but I do think those titles go pretty hard. They go pretty hard. The one thing I wish we could have seen is updated bounties for them, because Dory and Bragi's last bounty, I believe, was 100 million. And they're very unique because they share the same wanted poster. So you can't exactly like turn in one without the other. So I do wonder if now that they have reestablished themselves, if their bounty is going to get a massive, massive boost. Because I do think 100 million is very low for these guys, especially where we're at right now in the story. So I wouldn't be surprised if after Egghead Island, they get a billion berries, or, you know, something ludicrous like that, because they are wanted by the world government. And then of course Oimo and Kashi are people who betrayed the world government as well. So yeah, I hope we get some giant respect in the coming chapters. So we go down a little bit and we see that Usopp is actually playing I Spy from the cloud tops, and he sees that the giants have finally arrived. Usopp starts shedding a couple of tears. He calls them his masters, and that is pretty much it. I actually thought Usopp would show some interest in going downstairs and helping the giants out or saying hello to them, but instead they're like, hey, time to move some boxes. Okay, he doesn't exactly say that verbatim, but he does say, oh, they're here to help us. We got to get out of here as soon as possible. So yeah, to me at least, it doesn't seem like Usopp has any real intentions of going down there and, you know, seeing them again. It looks like he might be saving that reunion for Elbaf, which I think is very fair, right? Buster Call is happening. This island is going down. Sure, we can leave now and then we can talk to them later. And on that note, I do think we are leaving Egghead Island sooner than I initially thought, because we go back to Brook and Lilith's side of Egghead Island, and we see that the Thousand Sunny is still zip-zapping through the clouds, because Brook just froze the entire highway over here. So yes, the Thousand Sunny is traveling super quickly. It's about to leave the Cloud Island and run into the security dome. But Lilith calls Usopp and Nami and tells them that she has a plan. Not too sure what the plan is. I don't know if it involves getting rid of the security dome, or if it involves all of them hopping on board the Thousand Sunny and leaving very soon. I feel like that could go either way, and I feel like out of this entire chapter, what's happening with Brook and Lilith is what I'm almost the most curious about. Simply because, like, if the Thousand Sunny truly is flying off of the clouds and they can't stop it, then yeah, I feel like that is our ticket out of here. I feel like that is a sign that we are going to leave. And this notion of us leaving is even more hammered down by Jinbei, who says, hey, Zoro, we really just can't be fighting now. We have to go. And then we cut over to Zoro and Lucci, which, you know, I'll get more in depth about this here in a second. But even Lucci is like, hey, your crew is waiting for you, Zoro. Like, they gotta go, and you're still here fighting me. So it's like, yeah, it looks like there is a really fast countdown when it comes to how urgently we have to leave this island. Then again, though, there does exist a scenario where they make it past the security dome, and then since the giants are on the bottom floor, they see the Thousand Sunny flying off and they just grab it and they save the day. I feel like that could happen too, but like I said, that is why I'm really interested to see how the Thousand Sunny situation resolves, because I feel like it could go so many different directions. I don't know. But yes, we see Jinbei flying off to Zoro, and I quite literally mean flying off. Jinbei is using the Dr. Vegapunk hover boots to, you know, glide through the clouds, which is a pretty cool scene. And I kind of wish more of the Straw Hats utilized the boots as well, since they all have the boots. But yeah, Jinbei, I guess he's really good with technology, so he is flying towards Zoro, and that is when we cut back to Zoro and Lucci, and we see that they are still clashing. And this battle you know, it's a little bit more than just a stalling match at this point, right? Because they're both huffing, they're both puffing. You know, Zoro actually has like some scratch marks and blood running down his face, and so does Lucci. And it's like, yo, this fight's apparently going hard on the sides, right? I kind of wish we saw more of this fight up until this point, because it looks like they were putting in work. And then, you know, talking about Zoro a little bit, it's kind of interesting that his swords don't have that green, ghastly King of Hell aura anymore. Like, they're all gone. And then Lucci isn't even using Haki anymore either. So you can tell that they are getting worn down by this battle. With that being said, though, I do think this battle is going to wrap up very soon. I mean, Zoro himself is like, hey, you know, we gotta go. Like, I can't be wasting time here. And then Rob Lucci is like, hey, you're dead weight. And then Zoro's like, oh, you're not in control of this fight, Rob Lucci. It's like classic trash talk, but I feel like this trash talk is leading towards a conclusion. And here's the thing. Even if this fight doesn't have a clear winner next chapter, like I'm suspecting, Jinbei is gonna show up, right? Like, the minute Jinbei arrives here, the scales are going to flip over. Like Jinbei is just a really strong fighter. Put him beside Zoro, it is pretty much game over for most people. So yeah, I think if Jinbei does show up here, this fight's going to get waxed. But as far as Lucci goes, I am really impressed with Lucci. He has lasted a lot longer than I thought. And this is coming from a Rob Lucci fan. You guys know me. I think Rob Lucci is awesome. And I didn't think he'd last this long. So that is why I think next chapter, I feel like he will be going down, and I am totally okay with that because he had a really respectable showing, you know, pushing Zoro to this extent, you know, drawing out the fight this long. It's like, yo, that is all I want. That is all I want. As far as Zoro goes, though, I really hope that, you know, come next chapter, if he does beat Rob Lucci, I would love if Zoro talked a little bit about his abilities and how he's thinking about enhancing his sword play. Because, like I said, he had the King of Hell aura in the beginning of this fight. It's not here anymore. So maybe he brings it back a little bit. Maybe he talks about it, or even talks about how to blacken his blades. Because we do know that eventually Zoro is going to have to blacken them, right? And we as the audience still don't know how to blacken blades even. Mihawk is like the only person with a black blade. Shusui is also blackened, but of course Ryuma is dead, so he can't tell us either. There's a lot of cool things with blackening blades, and I wonder if through this fight, if Zoro will get like a small hint as to how to do it. I think that would be pretty cool, and that would be a really nice takeaway from this battle as well. One thing I really dislike about Zoro versus Lucci, though, and I'm just gonna get this off my chest, but I really hate how people use this fight to downplay Zoro. I feel like that's really strange because, yes, like, you know, Zoro isn't exactly trying super hard right now because he doesn't have his 3 swords, he doesn't have the Conqueror's Haki coming out, but at the same time, I feel like it was always going to be like this. I never envisioned a scenario where Rob Lucci would be dead the next time we see him, because we have to remember that Rob Lucci, I'm gonna use the word clash very loosely here, but he was sparring against Gear 5th. He was clashing with Gear 5th, and people use Lucci's loss in that fight as a way to say that he's fodder. And I think that is so ludicrous, because when you really think about it, who is beating Gear 5th Luffy? Everybody's losing. You know what I mean? Like, saying that Lucci losing to Gear 5th is an L for Lucci is kind of insane, considering not even Kizaru can keep up with Gear 5th. Kizaru got knocked down like 5 times by Luffy. Exaggeration, I think it was like 3 times, but still, I mean, Kizaru couldn't keep up. Lucci is not going to keep up. Kaido did really well, but Kaido still lost to Gear 5th. Like, I really don't think there's many people in the verse of One Piece right now that can actually fight Luffy and win. So I was never of the mindset that Lucci is fodder. I think Lucci is very powerful. He's just not Gear 5th Luffy. And this just shows that Zoro is not there either. And I think this is a good thing for Zoro, because it shows that Zoro has a lot of room to grow. He's not the world's strongest swordsman yet. Zoro, Elbaf, he's gonna grow. Zoro versus world government, he's gonna grow. Zoro is gonna get stronger and stronger, just like all the other Straw Hats. And I think this is a very respectable battle, and I truly do believe that Zoro will walk away from this fight with a W. Whether it's from his own merits or whether it's from Jinbei assisting him. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Maybe I am, very weak-minded, but, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting assistance every now and then. So we go on a little bit further, and we see that the Pacifista are still destroying ships, and then we get revealed to one of the Vice Admiral's names. We have Vice Admiral Red King. And this is the Vice Admiral with all of the chins, right? We call him Cincinnati, Chinzilla, Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, there's so many chin names that this guy could have had, but no. Oda decided to give this guy the name Red King, and that name goes absolutely hard. Hear me out though. There are a couple of things that I noticed thanks to the live stream chat that I didn't even put together until now, but we have Vice Admiral Red King right here, and you know, going back a couple chapters ago, we were introduced to Vice Admiral Bluegrass, and I never connected the dots, but these names are nicknames that Special Marines get, because we have a bunch of characters in the Marines who have color-coded names, right? Just going to the most prime examples that people know of, we have Fujitora, which is Purple Tiger, Ryokugyu, Green Bull, Akainu, Red Dog, Kuzan, oh, sorry, not Kuzan, Aokiji, Blue Pheasant, Kizaru, Yellow Monkey, Tokikage, we have Momosagi. So with that in mind, it's like, yo, Red King and Bluegrass. It makes sense why they have those names, because Akainu is no longer Akainu. People call him Sakazuki now because he's no longer an admiral. So the Red Dog title is retired. So somebody else in the Marines gets the red epithet, and it's this guy. The guy with chins is the person who got the Akainu red title afterwards. That's kind of nuts. And also, you know, like I said, Aokiji, Blue Pheasant, that title is retired because Aokiji left the Navy. So guess what they did? They gave the blue title to Bluegrass, and it's like, yo, they gave the blue and red to the Chin Man and the old lady that likes to ride people. I don't know. I mean, are we doing the Akainu and Aokiji legacy dirty? Maybe. I need to see more out of Vice Admiral Red King, but I'm not too sure, man. I'm not too sure how I feel about that. I actually wish I never pieced that together, or we pieced that together, because we all did that together in the live stream. But yeah, like it's kind of crazy, and I am wondering if his name's gonna be changed a little bit when we hit the anime, or when we get like more translations, because, you know, Akainu is a play on Red Dog, and so are all of the other color-coded names as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is Akao or something like that for Red King. And then Bluegrass is something similar as well. But yeah, no. Red King and Bluegrass, their stocks kind of went up when I made this connection. I'm not gonna lie. I do want to see more out of them. I want to see if they have a great showing. Do I think these are Admiral tier characters? No. We have to remember that some of the people who do get color-coded names never make it to Admiral. A great example is Tokikage and Momosagi. They were Vice Admirals through and through. In my opinion, I think they're kind of fodder, and they just teeter around the Vice Admiral rank. So just because he has the Red King title doesn't mean that he's going to be, you know, the second coming of Akainu. Yeah, no way. But yeah. A nice little Easter egg there for people who like the Marines. And we go down a little bit more, and that is when we cut back to Luffy, who is now talking to Bonnie. And they actually have a really wholesome moment, man. Like, Luffy and Bonnie, I swear, dude, Bonnie's like the little sister of the Straw Hats. That's kind of what she's striking me as right now. And I was never big on the Bonnie for Nakama train. Well, you guys know me. I'm a little bit dumb. I still think Yamato's gonna come by somehow, some way, but, you know, Bonnie, she was always like there. I wasn't a big fan of that narrative coming into this island, but I do feel like every chapter we get of Bonnie, I like her more and more. She's just so wholesome, man. Like, it really strikes you like she is a kid, right? Like, she's over here crying when she sees Luffy. She's like, yo, I've been looking for you for so long. And then Luffy kind of trolls her a little bit, right? Because Luffy's like, hey, I saw you try to use a punch earlier. That was weak, dude. Like, your gear third punch? Yeah, trash. And then Bonnie, instead of arguing with Luffy or, you know, saying, oh, like, I can do better than that. Like, Bonnie actually crumbles a little bit. Like, her personality, that wall she had when we first got to Egghead Island, it's gone. Because instead of arguing, she says, I was going for a big rubbery attack like you. If my attack is flimsy, show me how it's done. It's like, yo, Bonnie's changed. This is a very different character, and I really like this. I think this is great dynamic writing from Oda. You know, just being able to switch a character from one personality to another is just really nice. I really love it, man. I really love it. And you know what? Maybe I do like Bonnie more for Nakama than Yamato now. You know, Yamato who, right? Like, I'm forgetting about Yamato now. I'm sold. I'm sold, man. I'm sold. And plus, hey, every good crew has to have a lackey, right? Roger had Shanks and Buggy. Luffy doesn't have any kids on the crew yet, you know? Like, hey, maybe. Enough fanboying here over the new Nakama potential. But Bonnie directs Luffy's attention to Saturn, and that is when Luffy realizes that Vegapunk's been hit by Saturn, you know? And here's the thing. I mentioned this in the last review video as well. How people love to make fun of Gear 5th, saying that he kills the tension, and I kind of agree with that, but I'm not a hater. I do like Gear 5th, and if anything, I think it's hilarious. I think it's such a funny gag where Luffy realizes that Vegapunk is dying on the ground, and then we see Luffy's eyes pop out, and he's just, you know, obviously he is very shocked, and he wants to help Vegapunk, but he can't forsake the goofy elements of Gear 5th. And I think that's pretty hilarious. I got a good chuckle out of that, right? Like, imagine dying on the ground and then Luffy's eyes are popping out. Luffy is living up to the Sun God Naked name, and he is bringing a smile to my face, right? You know, if you don't take it so seriously, it is pretty hilarious. So yes, Bonnie points at Saint Saturn, says, hey, give this old man a good wallop. And that is when Saint Saturn tries to attack Luffy by staring at him. It works, which is kind of crazy. Luffy actually has blood coming out of him when Saturn stares at him. So this attack, in a way, is coded in Haki, because you need Haki to, like, actually damage Luffy. And we saw that, you know, Saturn used this attack on Sanji, and Sanji, even with an exoskeleton, still took damage. And it's like, yo, like, this attack from Saturn, while it's not defeating our boys here, it's still pretty interesting, right? Like, it's doing some damage. Of course, Luffy is a monster, so he bounces back right after being hit by Saturn's stare, and that is when Luffy hits him with a brand new Gatling attack, a Gear 5th Gatling, Booming Dawn. And man, Saturn eats this attack up. Dude, I don't know, man. Like, Saturn, he's an interesting one in my opinion, and we'll talk more about the Saturn slander here in a minute. But yeah, Luffy hits him with a Gatling, he flies around a little bit, and then we cut back over to Vegapunk. And he says that if he gets moved right now, he will die. And he even throws his doctor expertise out there as well. Like, hey, as a doctor, I know that I'm gonna die if I move. So now, I'm kind of curious to see how you guys feel about this. Like, do you think Vegapunk's gonna die? Do you think he'll somehow survive? I'm not too sure. If Chopper were down here, I feel like Vegapunk could survive. But I don't know anymore. Like, Vegapunk, I feel like it's so 50-50. And this might sound bad, but I feel like Vegapunk's death would be inconsequential in a way, because we do still have Punk records, we do still have Lilith, we have York, we have Edison, we have Atlas. Like, even if Vegapunk dies, his legacy is guaranteed to survive pretty much, right? Even if Punk records goes down, he still has the satellites, and it's like, yo, like, Vegapunk is dead, but Vegapunk is still alive at the same time. Like, it's a weird bag with this character. I would prefer if he survived, simply because I do think that Bonnie needs a, quote, godfather figure like Vegapunk in her life, since she doesn't have a dad, since she doesn't have a mom. But I'm not too sure. Like I said, this could go multiple directions. But yeah, Vegapunk is not looking good here. Vegapunk is not looking good whatsoever. And to help finish off Vegapunk, in comes Kizaru. He comes in, he does his little laser beam OK circle thingy. And what's interesting here is that Kizaru actually closes his eyes while he's about to fire it off. It's almost like he can't stand the sight of watching his friends die. You know, Kizaru is such an interesting character because almost every time he's about to kill somebody or, kill one of his friends, he's either apologizing, he's trying to make it seem okay. Like, last chapter, when he was about to cut Bonnie and Kuma, he said, I'll send you guys out together. It's gonna be painless, right? And I really can't believe he's still going through with this mission at this point. And all I gotta say, man, is that I hope that after this island, if Kizaru is still with the Marines, we need to give him a promotion. I mean, geez, this guy is dedicated. Employee of the Month material Kizaru right here. Just fulfilling his duties no matter what. It's a little bit respectable in a weird way. Because if somebody ordered me to kill my friends and family, I'd probably say no. I'll find another job. But Kizaru is still going in, and I wonder if there's some underlying reason why he likes his job so much. Like, I wonder if we'll ever get some Kizaru backstory that explains why he is the way he is. Like, did he witness a Marine not do his job at one point and then he regrets it? Did he get inspired by another Marine and their sense of justice? I have no idea. I have no idea, man. But yeah, Kizaru goes in with the laser beam and boom! Very next panel, Sanji comes in and deflects the attack. Kizaru has a brand new expression. Kizaru is bewildered that Sanji actually moved in fast enough and deflected the attack. Pretty insane, pretty insane. Sanji, of course, did deflect a couple of laser beams last chapter when Kizaru was, shooting his barrage. But I'm assuming the attack potency is very different between the barrage of lasers and this single focused laser, which is why Kizaru is so shocked by Sanji's appearance here. And, Frankie's also shocked by it. And that is when Sanji drops a mean one-liner. Actually, he drops a two-liner. Sanji says, light doesn't hold a candle to love. And in that panel, you can see that Sanji's eyebrows have actually switched over and he is now in Jerma mode. Pretty insane. And another thing to keep in mind too is that when Sanji deflects the attack, he doesn't even have flames on. Yo, Sanji, no Diable Jamba, no Ifrit. Nah, dude, this is base Jerma Sanji, if you want to power scale that one. Pretty insane, man, pretty insane. Kizaru responds by saying if that's true, they'll have to scrap the physics books and start from scratch. I think that's a very lame line. I don't know what Kizaru was cooking there, but they do have another go round, and Kizaru says, well, I'm in a pickle now. They'll expect me to at least bring back your heads after all of this. And then we pan over and we see Luffy in Gear 5th laughing. And Sanji hits Kizaru with another mean one-liner. He says, you'd better start drafting an apology letter for them then. Pretty much saying that Kizaru's not going to walk away with the W. And it's like, yo! This reminds me of the start of the Zoro and Lucci fight, where, Zoro was like, oh, like, I'm gonna skin you alive, you cat. I'm kind of ad-libbing there. And then Lucci's like, your time is up, Roanoa. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, is this the start of Sanji versus Kizaru? I have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, even if it's a tag team between Sanji and Luffy versus Kizaru, I think that would go pretty hard. I think that would go pretty dang hard. I myself am a big Jujutsu Kaisen fan, so I'm all about the 2v1s, right? I'm all about jumping the bad guys. So I think, Oda could be cooking here. Oda could be cooking. But of course, though, I don't think Kizaru would be too hard to handle with Sanji and Luffy, because we saw Luffy knock down Kizaru a couple of times already, right? Like Luffy is that guy. So you put Sanji in the ring as well, and it's like, yo, I don't know if Kizaru can win this. Like, I don't think he has a chance. The only way I could see Kizaru putting up a really good fight here against Gear 5th Luffy and Sanji would be if he awakens. We have not seen a singular Logia awakening in the series thus far. So if Kizaru does awaken and he shows us what it's all about, then maybe he has a chance here. Maybe Egghead Island will still be up in the air. But right now, from the looks of it, from Zoro to Luffy to Sanji to the Giants, like, it really does seem like Egghead Island is going to end in a complete Straw Hat W. All right, so moving on now. We are now onto the final parts of this chapter. We have Saturn laying in some rubble. You know, the classic. Saturn is missing his chair at home, so he's now sitting on some rubble. Love to see it. We see Katarina Devon and Van Augur stroll up to him, you know, casually. Van Augur and Katarina Devon, they were pretty much always on this island. We just did not know they were here. Devon touches Saturn's leg, implying that she can now copy his appearance, and she says, "To think an elder would come down to the surface and bless us with his presence. It's unheard of. But it sure made our job a hell of a lot easier. Mission complete." So with this, I have a couple of things I want to talk about. First up, it does seem like getting Saturn copied is what they wanted all along, which is fair, right? I feel like being able to mimic Saint Saturn is huge. I mean, let's be real. Like, we saw how impactful this was at Alabasta. Bon Clay pretended to be King Cobra. He killed a bunch of civilians. He exposed the dance powder situation as well, and it pretty much caused the whole revolution. Like the Mane Mane no Mi is pretty broken when it comes to espionage and coup d'etats, really. So copying Saint Saturn, one of the highest authority figures in the world, is pretty crazy, right? Like, for example, they could pull a Fujitora, where she copies Saint Saturn, she goes in front of Big News Morgans, and Saint Saturn says something ridiculous, but of course it's actually Katarina Devon. Like, I feel like there's a lot of ways you can utilize this guy's appearance. But what I'm wondering, out of all of this, is how Katarina Devon and Van Augur knew that Saturn was going to be here in the first place. So earlier in the chapter, when the new giant pirates arrived, when the giant pirates arrived, I believe it was Edison. And Edison said, hey, they must have read the newspaper. The Navy procured a large mass of power here to this island. So, of course, like, the world would take note of it. But I highly doubt they announced Saint Saturn's appearance here. So is this a coincidence that Van Augur and Devon were here in the first place and touched Saturn? Or did they have the inside scoop and knew that Saint Saturn was coming here undercover? I don't know. That is something that I'm a little bit curious in. But of course, if they did have the down low information, I wouldn't be super shocked. Because one thing that we've seen time and time again throughout the story is that Yonkos have a great informational network. So Blackbeard knowing that Saturn is here, I think could be explained pretty easily. But yeah, Devon, Van Augur, they touched Saturn, mission complete, they got what they wanted. And that is when Saturn, who just kind of lets them touch him. I mean, Saturn, you know, he didn't even try to dodge that touch. But Saturn says, hey, what business do you have here? And that is when they start talking a little bit about Blackbeard. Katarina says that Blackbeard is special, and Saturn ends off her sentence by saying, as is his lineage. So it's hinting that Blackbeard is, of course, of a special race, which is something we kind of expected, right? Ever since Marco said, hey, Blackbeard has a weird body, and ever since we learned that Blackbeard does not go to sleep at night, it's like, okay, yeah, something is really strange about this guy. And then, of course, we hit God Valley, and we learn that the celestial dragons go from island to island every 3 years, killing all of the natives. And it's like, yo, there's a good chance that Blackbeard is a special race. The main question is, what special race is Blackbeard, or what special lineage does he have? Because that one is still up in the air. Some people are saying that he could be a buccaneer, and while he is built like a buccaneer, I don't think he is. Because I do believe his weird body and the fact that he doesn't go to sleep at night does allude that Blackbeard is different from the Buccaneers. So I do believe he comes from a different lineage altogether. One thing to take note of is the fact that Saint Saturn knows about Blackbeard's lineage at all. You know, so does this mean that Saint Saturn and the Gorosei have been keeping tabs on Blackbeard? Or does this confirm that the person Shanks talked to the Gorosei about was Blackbeard, right? Because we still have that open plot thread where Shanks walked up to Marie Joie and he said, hey, I have to tell you about a certain pirate. So that happened, and we still don't know who he talked about. Of course, there were only two real options. It was either Luffy or it was Blackbeard. So it was very 50-50. But with this chapter, I am walking out of it leaning more so on the Blackbeard side, which does make sense because we have to keep in mind how wary Shanks is of Blackbeard. Because, I mean, Shanks went to Wano because he thought Blackbeard was going to be there. Shanks versus Kid? Shanks was reading reports about Blackbeard. Shanks really cares about this guy. You know, Shanks wants to put Blackbeard in the dirt, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is the one who told the Gorosei about Teach's special lineage. And of course, Shanks did fight Blackbeard at one point, so he would have information about what makes Blackbeard so dang special. Saturn asks, what does the Blackbeard Pirates hope to get out of all of these wacky stunts that they're pulling off around the world? And we get one of the hardest panels I have seen in One Piece. Like, no joke. I don't think it's recency bias when I say this, but I do think that this panel goes absolutely hard. So after St. Saturn asks that, we get Van Augur and Devon just kind of posed up together, and they say that they want the world. Yo, when I saw that panel, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, yo, like the Blackbeard Pirates are kind of cold. They're kind of cold. So Van Augur, you know, showing how amazing he is and how cool as a cucumber he is, he glances over at St. Saturn and simply teleports before St. Saturn can land a blow on him. And I'm like, dude, Van Augur, man. Van Augur is being gassed up this week. Between the Toei episode with him one-shotting Biscuit Soldiers to this chapter right here, I'm like, yo, Van Augur's kind of cool. Van Augur's kind of cool. And I love that Van Augur is getting this much gas because this just shows where Usopp is going to have to be when he fights Van Augur, or even Yasopp, right? Like, we're going to get such a great fight from Van Augur, and I think all the Blackbeard Pirates are going to be crazy as well. And here's one thing to keep in mind. Van Augur teleported faster than Saturn could actually attack them, or land the attack. And Van Augur says, hey, I haven't mastered my Devil Fruit yet. And I think the same goes for all of the Blackbeard Pirates, right? We saw them use their powers against Law's crew. We saw them use their powers against Garp and the Marines. And I was a little bit underwhelmed for Final Villains. But, you know, Van Augur saying that he hasn't mastered his ability yet, I think goes for all of the Blackbeard Pirates. I feel like by the time we see them next, by the time we actually fight them, I wouldn't be shocked if these guys awaken. Or, you know, they've expanded their knowledge about their own Devil Fruit. Like, yeah, these guys are crazy, man. These guys are actually nuts. I do like the small lines we have between Devon and Augur, though, because they do feel like the antithesis of the Straw Hat Pirates. They've always felt that way, where they're goofy, they have wacky designs, they all have their quirky personalities, and I really like that. This is a problem I have with a lot of superhero movies that have been coming out in the modern era, where we focus a lot on the superheroes like Iron Man or Thor or, you know, whatever hero you want to name, and we don't show a lot of love to the villains. The villains end up being this punching bag, this empty personality. But here in One Piece with the Blackbeard Pirates, I don't feel that way. Like, almost all of the villains have that depth to them, and I love that, dude. Between Kizaru, who is straight up regrettably killing his friends, to the Blackbeard Pirates, to Saturn, like, oh man, it's so good, it's so good. But anyways, last parts about the chapter, Caribou. Already mentioned it at the beginning of this video, but Caribou wants to join the Blackbeard Pirates. It turns out that that man that Caribou has been referencing this entire time is actually Marshall D. Teach. He wants to be a great man like Blackbeard. He wants to be his lackey. This is all he has ever wished for. It is absolutely crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And a couple of things to keep in mind too is that when we first got introduced to the character Rox D. Xebec, there was a fraction of the community that actually said that Caribou kind of looked like Rox D. Xebec. Not all the way, but he has like that weird face shape. He has the hair that kind of matches. So it is really interesting to see how, you know, Caribou is wanting to join Blackbeard and saying how he's such a great guy. And it's funny because Blackbeard has the same dream as Rox D. Xebec. So it's like all these Xebec fans are kind of gathered together in a weird way, which is also something I forgot to mention a second ago. But when Van Augur and Devon say that they want the world, that is also Rox D. Xebec's dream. Rox D. Xebec wanted to become king of the world. So yeah, it all just falls in line. It all goes back to Rox D. Xebec, you know. It's a great thing, man. I love this chapter through and through. As far as Caribou's impact goes, I feel like it's going to be massive. I know a lot of people don't like Caribou, but hear me out, dude. Caribou is a straight win across the board for whatever crew he's a part of. Like, if Caribou was a part of your crew, you would have no negatives. I mean, you get a Logia user. He has an endless vault of food inside of him. He has knowledge about the ancient weapons. He comes with his own crew because we haven't seen his crew in a long time. But he has a brother named Caribou who has a bounty of 190 million. And it's like, yo, Caribou is kind of a W, man. He really is. Like, the only reason why you wouldn't like Caribou is because he's a bad guy morally. But outside of that, Caribou is just a great addition for anybody. And yeah. Caribou joining the Blackbeard Pirates, I see it here. I can see Blackbeard going after the ancient weapons because Blackbeard, if Blackbeard wants to take over the world, he needs military might. What better way to take over the world than to have ancient weapons that can destroy the world? So the minute when Caribou tells Blackbeard about Shirahoshi and Pluton, I do think that Blackbeard is going to go after them. And man, we could get some pretty cool fights out of that. Just imagine Blackbeard showing up to Wano, you know, Momonosuke, Yamato, they've been training a little bit. They try to fight Blackbeard, they can't do it. And then Blackbeard destroys Wano's walls by using the Quake Fruit, which I think is very plausible. Of course, Zunisha at first was supposed to be the one who destroys the walls, but Blackbeard has the Quake Fruit. You know, Blackbeard, in my opinion, can very easily break down the walls of Wano. He was built for it. So yeah, Blackbeard going to Wano, I am pretty high on that one. And it could bring Yamato and Momonosuke and Kinemon and the Scabbards back to the forefront of the story as well. Fishman Island, oh man, imagine the fight from Fishman Island. Bro, we could be reintroduced to Arlong. You never know, Arlong versus Blackbeard, Hody Jones, the old man, the Ryobushi brothers, I don't think that's their name. So funny enough, I think I've made like 2 videos about the Blackbeard Pirates going to Fishman Island at this point, and every single time I have not been able to remember the Fishman Island brothers' names, and I don't think a single person has actually corrected me. Nobody cares about these guys, you know, like let me see, Fishman Island brothers. I'm googling it right now. So we have Fukaboshi, Ryuboshi, and Momboshi. I think they have like a title, right? No, they're just the Neptune family. The Ryugu brothers. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they fight Blackbeard and they go kind of crazy. Actually, now that I think about it, Fishman Island might be the hardest one because they're all Devil Fruit users. So technically, if you just destroy the bubble, maybe Blackbeard and his crew do take an L there. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things, man. One Piece is definitely just on this hill. It just keeps on getting higher and higher every time. We love to see it. So let me see. What is the verdict? How long is this video? So right now, the video is sitting at around 40 to 50 minutes. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And you know what's the worst part? I didn't even talk about everything I wanted to. I'll probably make a separate video tomorrow. Small one. I promise. A small one. I do want to make a small discussion video talking about Bonnie and Luffy because I think that's a really fun one. But outside of that, though, hey, thank you guys so much for stopping by, checking out this video. I really freaking appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day. I know it already passed, but, you know, YouTube videos have a little bit of a weird schedule, so I just want to say that belatedly. So happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you guys had a good one. If you didn't have a Valentine's, no big deal. Who needs them? But yeah, thank you so much. I'll catch you guys later. Let me know what you think about this chapter down below. Have a great weekend. Sai signing out.